Like so many others, I was delighted when I heard that the Vatican is going to canonize Mother Teresa of Calcutta, someone who, in her own lifetime, was often referred to as a living saint. So delighted that she's going to be formally recognized as a saint. I first came across Mother Teresa many years ago through Malcolm Muggeridge, as many others did, the British journalist and commentator who did a film on Mother Teresa called Something Beautiful for God. And then it was accompanied by a book. I think I read the book and then saw the film. Muggeridge certainly showed Mother Teresa in her work among the poor and the suffering. What most struck me, I remember, was her smile and her joy. So here's this woman in the midst of one of the worst slums in the whole world, and had this radiant quality to her smile. That's what I remember most from the book and the film. But for many people, in my generation and before, she was the archetype of what it means to be holy. So I want to explore that a little bit under three different rubrics. I mean, she shows so many profiles and dimensions of what it means to be holy, but I'll focus just on three. The first one is the radicality of love. So we all know love is the heart of the spiritual life. To be holy is to be conformed to love, because love is what God is. As I've said a million times, love is not a feeling or a sentiment. It's an act of the will. It's to will the good of the other as other. So Mother Teresa, I think more than anyone else in the 20th century, certainly, exemplified this great theological virtue, to will the good of the other as other. Look how radically she did it. I mean, first by eschewing almost everything that we consider essential to the good and happy life, leaving behind wealth and power and privilege, and living in the most kind of abject circumstances, sending her sisters into some of the worst corners of the world, and Mother leading and then following after them. The radicality of it, going to the poorest of the poor in the most desperate situation, abandoning her own will almost completely so that she could will the good of the other. Now, here's my point. That's more than just kind of exemplary. It's witnessing to something essential about the nature of love, and it's this. Love is the only virtue that you can never overdo. There's no maximum to love. Love is infinite, really, in its nature. So think by way of contrast with the other virtues. Justice is a great virtue, right? But if you're all justice all the way, well, then you exclude all mercy. There's something unbalanced, odd about that. Think of temperance. Temperance is a great thing. It's a virtue. But temperance overstated becomes a sort of fussy Puritanism. Think of courage, great virtue. But Aristotle knew this. Courage overstated becomes rashness. Someone who's out in the battlefield and does something that's irrational. It's courage to the extreme. Even in the theological virtues, think of faith. Too much faith becomes this credulity. It excludes reason. Too much hope becomes presumption. And in fact, even in heaven, faith and hope will fade away. Right? You won't need faith in heaven. You'll have what you've been aspiring to. Hope will fade away for the same reason. You'll have what you were hoping for. But what's the one virtue that cannot be overstated? Love. Because love is what God is. Love is the life of heaven. As faith and hope fade away, what's left is the one essential thing, love. You can't love too much. You can't love too much. There's never a time when you shouldn't love. That's the point. So Mother Teresa, more than anybody else, witnessed to that by the sheer radicality of the way she loved. Not that all of us are called to do what she did, but there was something of the quality of it, this limitless, relentless, all the way to the edge quality that witnesses to what real love is. And that was a great gift she gave the whole church. Here's the second one, prayer, the centrality of prayer. When I went to Calcutta to film our little segment on Mother Teresa, what most struck me, her grave is deeply moving, to see the sisters working, deeply moving. What moved me the most, though, was in their chapel, in the private chapel of the nuns. They have a very life-like, very realistic statue of Mother Teresa. And it's in the spot where she always prayed. And there she is in this characteristic posture, her legs folded under her, her hands like this, and her head bowed down. And it's It's so realistic that it kind of startles you when you come in. Like, oh, who's that? Am I bought? There's where Mother Teresa prayed. This great apostle to the poor and the destitute spent hours in prayer, daily, hours in prayer. Her sisters could not do their work without prayer. In time, of course, she founds a whole contemplative part of her order, nuns whose whole life is about prayer. Here's the importance of that. We can get sort of pious about prayer and think, oh, isn't that nice? Praise all the time. See, prayer is essential to a life of love, precisely because love is the highest of the theological virtues. So you can make yourself more courageous by putting yourself in dangerous situations, and that's why even sports fields are places where courage is tried and improved upon. You can make yourself more just. You can make yourself more temperate, etc. You can't make yourself more loving, because love, to will the good of the other as other, that's what God is. That's what God is, and only God can give it. See, you can't really practice it. You have to be given this gift. It's a grace, which just is a fancy way of saying gift. Right? Therefore, what can you do? You have to beg for it. You can beg for it. You can ask over and over and over again, every day, all the time. Please, Lord, ask. And that's why prayer is the essential concomitant of love. You can't have one without the other. And I think the almost extremism of her prayer is another witness to holiness. Here's the third thing that I think is really something. And along with the rest of the world, I didn't know this until just a few years ago when the diaries came out and when this book was published about Mother Teresa's very private and terrible struggle with spiritual darkness. During her lifetime, someone said, you'll be a saint. And she said, well, if I ever become a saint, I will certainly be a saint of darkness. And I bet when she said that, most people didn't know what she meant. Now we do. For upwards of 50 years, Mother Teresa, who in her youth had very vivid experiences of God, even hearing the voice of Jesus asking her to be a missionary to the poor, for 50 years, she had an abiding sense of the absence of God. Nothing, no supernatural element, none of that. And interiorly, a sense of the absence of God. Even to the point of, in her diary, saying, is there a God? There's a famous story about an American bishop who was visiting Calcutta. And there he is in that room where Mother Teresa prayed in front of the Blessed Sacrament. And a note is passed to him. And it's from Mother Teresa. And it says, where is Jesus? The bishop was like flummoxed. Here's the living saint in front of the Blessed Sacrament asking me, where is Jesus? Well, we know now all about that she experienced intense feelings of the absence of God. Well, what do we do with this? People say she was depressed. People like Christopher Hitchens says, oh, she lost her faith. That's all nonsense. What this is, in fact, is one of the profiles of her holiness, of her sanctity. Now, why do I say that? Because to be a saint, to put it like in a quick little phrase, to be a saint is to allow Jesus to live his life in you. So Paul says, it's no longer I who live, it's Christ who lives in me. See? To be a saint is not to be someone simply who imitates Jesus. There's this ideal out there, and I'm going to try to imitate it. That's not it at all. To be a saint is to invite Jesus so thoroughly to invade your life that you're living his life now, or you're allowing him to live his life in you. Okay. Do we see it in her service for the poor? Of course. Jesus was someone of service, love of the poor. Let's say in a preacher, maybe you say, oh yeah, that's part of Jesus' life that he preached. But see, an essential part of Jesus' life was the way of the cross, culminating in the still startling, God, my God, why have you abandoned me? Right? Here's Jesus on the cross, experiencing the limit of physical suffering, but also the limit of psychological and even spiritual suffering. Chesterton said, on the cross, it's as though God becomes an atheist. Right? God loses a sense of God. Did Mother Teresa allow Jesus to live in her? Yeah, everyone saw that pretty dramatically. Well, part of that is the crucified Jesus living his life in you. The Jesus who said, God, my God, why have you forsaken me? to let him live his life in you. That's what she had. That's what she experienced in all these years of abjection and abandonment. So I think, far from being a witness of her, having lost her faith, it's in fact a witness to this quality. St. John of the Cross, the greatest mystical theologian in the church, said, there's only one way to holiness, and that's through the cross. Now, I find the longer I live, the truer that strikes me. There's only one way to holiness, through the cross of Jesus. Mother Teresa experienced, and she never advertised it or led on that she was going through this terrible suffering. Just the contrary. That smile that I saw in Muggeridge's film, absolutely sincere. But underneath it was a keen sense of suffering the absence of God. But that, I think, just witnesses to her sanctity, her holiness. So I think as we revel in this announcement of her canonization, we should think, okay, love, no limit to it. Love goes all the way. There's no danger in loving too much. She tells us about that. Prayer. You got to beg to be a saint. There's only one way. You have to beg. And then her very darkness. The darkness itself is what makes her a saint of light.